Imagine there's a power outage in your neighborhood for a couple of days during the winter months. It would be nearly impossible to survive living in a house without power to keep everywhere warm, right? Well, that's how Amish people live all year round. No electricity, no power. Yet they find some pretty innovative ways to heat their homes all year round. What are the methods through which the Amish people keep their homes warm without any power supply? Stay with us in this video to find out. When you hear someone say they're going off the grid for a while, what comes to mind? Probably going camping or renting out a cabin for the weekend and trying to moderate screen time, or something along those lines. And hey, we're not beating that down. But when you get informed that Amish people live off the grid, it's not just about taking time off from the hustle and bustle of city life, or reducing time spent on social media. For these people, living off the grid means literally what it sounds like. They live off the electrical grid. That means no electricity supply from any city grid, ever. We agree that sounds like a messed up form of torture to subject regular city people to, particularly members of the younger technological generation. But being Amish is all about sustainability, self-sufficiency, and detaching from the normal activities of a metropolitan city to build a tight connection with your community and loved ones. These core values are the very reason why Amish people can live without sourcing electric power from the main grid. But here's the thing that many people tend to mix up. Amish people living off the grid doesn't mean they believe electricity is evil or they're banned from powering necessary aspects of their lives. After all, heating their home is one undeniably important task that is more efficiently done with the use of electric power. What the Amish off-the-grid lifestyle means is not being able to generate electricity from the main electrical grid used by citizens of modern society. Rather, to provide solutions for necessities like heating their homes, the Amish implement systems that are designed and maintained without relying on the outside world. One of those systems is the use of solar energy, and trust us, whatever you think that entails, for Amish people, there's a lot more. Contrary to what many people think, the Amish have begun using solar panels as far back as the 1990s. Sure, about 70 years before then, Amish communities around the world began rejecting high-voltage electricity with the belief that connection to power lines implies connection to the outside world. But even back then, the Amish understood the importance of using solar energy to do a lot of things. They relied on the sun to dry their clothes, to preserve food, and most importantly, to keep their homes warm. How did they achieve that last part all those years ago? Well, Amish people a century ago began constructing their homes and planning their settlements in a way that optimizes heat from the sun. This started with the use of insulating materials to construct their homes and homesteads. Till date, you'll notice that a lot of Amish buildings are constructed using bricks rather than wood, right? That's because the Amish understand that earthy materials from which bricks are produced have the ability to absorb heat during the day to prevent the inside of the homes from being too hot when the sun is out. These bricks kind of store up the heat energy radiated from the sun until when the environment is cooler at night, at which time the heat is then dissipated to provide warmth inside the home. The Amish have understood these basic thermal principles for decades now, and have used it as a way to heat their homes, laying the foundation for the more innovative Amish generation of today to build on. Now, some Amish communities in the United States have been experimenting with materials with high thermal mass, like trom walls. These materials function on the same principle of absorbing excess heat from the outside environment and slowly dissipating it into the building when the outside environment gets cooler. But that's not all. The Amish from decades back also came up with the ideas of building their homes with structural designs that optimize solar energy. Have you ever driven by an Amish settlement or been in an Amish home that has really large living room windows? If you had just concluded it was an aesthetic design, well, don't beat yourself down too much. It's what many non-Amish people would think. But it couldn't be any further from the actual idea besides such large windows. Those windows are made that way to allow sufficient sun rays to come into the living area and heat up the room. These large windows serve purpose best during the winter season when the sun isn't as hot in the countryside. During the summer, the Amish use dark cloth curtains to cover these windows to insulate the home and reduce the amount of sun rays coming in. You've probably not noticed this either, but these windows are also specifically located to face south. Want to take a guess as to why that's done? Yep, because south-facing windows are the best way to enjoy the sun's natural heat. Amish homes are also designed with overhangs which serve purpose during the summer by preventing sun rays from overpenetrating the interior of their rooms. Seeing as the Amish people have been implementing all these different ways of making sure their homes stay warm as far back as the 1930s, it didn't take too long for them to come on board with more sophisticated solar energy-based systems. By the 80s and 90s, the majority of Amish communities had approved the limited use of site-generated low-voltage solar power. For them, the use of solar panels makes so much sense in relation to their core values. For one, solar panels are self-contained, which means Amish communities don't have to pay monthly bills to firms in the outside world. 2, these simple solar panels could be wired directly to power the required appliances, in this case, the home heating system. 3, utilizing solar energy is a sustainable way of generating power without any damage to the environment. And 4, which is perhaps what made the use of solar energy so rampant in the Amish culture, installing these systems are way cheaper than most of the other ways of sourcing electricity. With all these factors considered, modern-day Amish people are inclined to get solar panels, which they attach to batteries in the attic or any other room in their homes. They rely on natural heat from the sun during the day, but at night they can power their boilers or heat pumps to charge the batteries to keep their rooms warm. We should also mention that most Amish houses don't make use of more than 2 solar panels. A bit of this probably has to do with how much importance they place on modernization as a trait. You'd agree that assembling a dozen solar panels to keep a non-stop supply of electricity from charged batteries doesn't sound much like moderation. Other than that, the Amish people really don't need that much power. To put it into perspective, take this crazy statistic for example. The average American household uses about 900 kilowatt hours of power every month, while an Amish household will only need 50 kilowatt hours within the same time frame. That massive difference is why the Amish can get by with just 1 or 2 solar panels installed on their roofs. Apart from solar power, the other alternative power supply the Amish make use of is wind energy. We have to say, unlike the use of solar panels and other solar devices, the Amish didn't have to catch up with the world on utilizing wind energy. In fact, it might be fair to say the world caught up to it, seeing that Amish communities as far back as 2 centuries ago have been making use of windmills. Wait, what? If that sounds crazy to you, then maybe you need a bit of a history lesson. So human beings have been using wind energy since 5000 BC. Then, wind power was majorly used to power boats along rivers like the Nile River in Egypt. By 200 BC, the Chinese had developed a way to use wind to handle domestic tasks by using windmills. And by the 1800s, the Dutch made use of wind power to draw water out of lakes and marshes. So the Amish weren't the first to understand the use of wind. However, considering the Amish culture is centered on the ability to make use of scarce resources to have a comfortable life, they sure were happy to make it a primary source of energy. All those decades ago, wind energy wasn't used to generate electricity in Amish communities like it is used today. Rather, back then, windmills were used in Amish communities to grind grain or pump water. Today, though, wind energy systems have become one of the fastest growing technologies in the energy sector around the world, and the Amish have ensured they aren't left behind. Just like every other technology the Amish implement in their day-to-day lives, they did not rely on the modern world to generate power from the wind. Instead, the typical Amish windmill was constructed using wood, steel, and simple mechanical parts, and it was always somewhere between 20 and 40 feet tall, which is in great contrast to the modern wind turbines, which could be as tall as 500 feet. Amish windmills were also designed to carry out traditional mechanical processes, so the blades were made with thick wood, and they could be used for many decades without needing any comprehensive repair. For many decades, the Amish made use of these simple windmill designs to do everything from sawing wood to pumping water. However, sometime in the late 1900s, when wind turbines became more rampantly used to generate electricity around the world, the Amish developed ways to benefit from this innovation. Rather than make massive turbine constructions made of fiberglass and steel and have them directly connected to an electrical grid to generate power, the Amish wired their traditionally designed windmills and connected them to dynamo batteries. These batteries get charged all day long by the mechanical motion of the windmills under the effects of the wind. The batteries are then disconnected and used to power the smaller devices in Amish homes, like heat pumps or boilers to keep the home warm. It's a lot like how the Amish make use of solar panels. Just this time, they're getting batteries charged with mechanical energy induced in the windmills by the wind. In recent years, certain Amish settlements that have more leniency toward the use of technological gadgets have opted to get smaller versions of the modern wind turbines installed near their farms or houses. The modern models of these wind turbines used by Amish families are just a little bigger in size than the traditional windmills. However, they're designed with way bigger blades for the rotor because the bigger the rotor diameter, the more power can be generated by the turbine. Whatever model of the windmills is in use, the point remains that these systems have proved incredibly efficient and effective in Amish communities. For one, windmills do not need heavy maintenance, and secondly, Amish settlements are in areas where there's little civilian and massive structures, meaning the wind gets to flow freely every time, keeping the windmills fully functional at all times. Not only is the design model of these windmills very practical, but it also ensures sustainability of the environment, which is of massive importance to every aspect of the Amish culture. The Amish respect nature and are always looking for ways to protect it, making use of essentially fan blades to charge batteries, which can be used to power home appliances, and it is an excellent choice. Amish windmills leave almost no carbon footprint and still get the job done. Apart from solar and wind power, the Amish have other innovative ways to keep their homes warm. One of these ways is through the use of propane, kerosene, or natural gas heaters. These heaters offer one of the best and most convenient ways to warm a room for the Amish. The heaters used are generally between 2 and 4 feet tall, which makes them a bit mobile. These heaters are placed on the floor in a room and filled with either propane, natural gas, or kerosene. These fuels react in the container, generating heat that is dissipated into the room through a connection. Pretty simple and easy to use. The only downside of these heaters, though, is that they need to be refueled over time, which means occasional contact with the outside world. As a result, heaters can be found in Schwartz and Truber Amish homes that make use of kerosene, but are harder to come by in more conservative Amish communities. Another home heating source that's dependent on how conservative an Amish community is the use of thorium mantle lamps. We know what you're thinking. Aren't lamps meant to illuminate the room? Well, yeah, they are, but the Amish have mastered the act of maximizing any available resource. So while these lamps are originally a source of illumination, they're also used to heat the home. To achieve this, Amish burn specific fossil fuels like propane, natural gas, naphtha, or even mineral spirits in the lamp. These fuels react almost explosively with the lattice-like mantle made from thorium and boom. What you get is an incredibly bright light, and a lot of heat is generated. Considering these lamps can't exactly be regulated with a knob, the Amish prefer to make use of it during the winter period when they need excessive heat to counter the cold weather. You've probably seen one of these thorium lamps if you visited an Amish household, but failed to notice they weren't your normal lanterns. These lamps can be hung on ceilings, built into the walls, and there are larger designs that can be wheeled around a room to provide heat and light in the specific areas. But that's not all. Apart from these methods, there are a ton of other contemporary ways the Amish keep their homes warm. These methods are time-tested and have been passed from generation to generation, making them a staple in most Amish homes. They include the use of wood-burning stoves made from heavy metals with tips that can be used for cooking. Just like it sounds, these stoves are stuffed with chopped wood and connected to exhaust pipes, which are used as a smoke vent to keep toxic fumes out of the home. More often than not, these heavy stoves are installed in the basement of the home to provide an efficient pathway to pass out the heat. While the exhaust pipe carries away some, a large air vent is placed on the floor directly above the stove to carry hot air upwards. This air is then passed into all the rooms in the house through the small vents in each room connected directly to the basement. The Amish also heat their homes with coal furnaces, which function in a very similar way. It's important to point out, though, that these older home heating methods are in less use in Amish homes today because of the harmful gas that is produced from burning coal or wood. After all, the Amish place value on environmental conservation, so polluting the air is something they'd rather avoid. It's for this very reason that Amish communities are drifting even more to the use of solar and wind power to heat their homes and power their home appliances. If you've enjoyed this video on how Amish heat their homes with solar, wind, and no power lines, and want to learn more about the Amish lifestyle, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring valuable content and practical knowledge to our viewers. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments, and let us know what topics you'd like to see next. Thank you for joining us through this journey on how Amish heat their homes with solar, wind, and no power lines. Until next time, stay curious, and keep exploring the savvy results of the past.